Premier League Matchday 13 review. So, that weren't me farting, by the way. That was just me touching a piece of the sofa. So, Forest beat Liverpool. Probably the biggest upset of the weekend, because even though Liverpool have been shocking this season, they shouldn't be losing to Forest. Because Forest were a championship team last season, and Liverpool were a team going for a quadruple last season. So hopefully Forest can keep this form going, barring playing against City, because I want them to stay in the Premier League because they're a big club with rich history. Next game, Everton 3, Palace 0. Massive win for Everton, absolutely massive. Because that could be a result that comes down as defining come the end of the season. Because I believe Palace ain't the same in the midfield without Conor Gallagher. Their midfield now doesn't have as much creativity. Next game, City 3, Brighton 1. I thought Brighton were actually pretty good. The only thing that they didn't really do was test Ederson. They had a lot of the ball, but apart from the goal, they didn't really test Ederson much. I don't think it was City's best performance, but I don't think it was our worst performance. And when you have games like that, the most important thing is to get the 3 points, and that's what we did. And hopefully we can keep the momentum going for the rest of the season now. Next game, Chelsea 1, United 1. It seems to be that every time that Chelsea play United, it always seems to end 1-1. That's happened a lot in those games recently. And I think United can be happy with the point, but if United want top 4, they're going to have to beat Chelsea, because Chelsea are one of the teams that are also in the top 4 race. I didn't actually watch this game, but I watched the game back on the highlights, and a lot of people were saying on like social media and stuff that it wasn't the greatest of games. So on to the next game. Leagues 2, Fulham 3. Massive win for Fulham. It's just whether Fulham can keep this form going into the latter stages of the season. Because I want Fulham to stay up, because I think they're a nice club and they play good football. But I've got a bad feeling they could fade off towards the end of the season, and I still think there's a possibility that they could go down. That might sound crazy given how well they've started, but it's just my opinion. And I feel like Jesse Marsch could be the next manager sacked, because he did well when he came in at Leagues, but since then it's sort of not been the greatest for him, given that their start of the season has been mixed results. Next game is Southampton versus Arsenal. Bit of controversy, because I think Arsenal should have had a penalty, because one of the Southampton defenders was grabbing hold of Jesus' shirt, and even though I'm not an Arsenal fan, I have to say that was a penalty. And I feel like the draw was the fair result, because I think in the first half it was all Arsenal, and in the second half it was all Southampton. Xhaka took his goal well, and also Armstrong took his goal well, and I think it was a good game, to be honest. I watched it, and I think a draw was a fair result. Next game, Villa 4, Brentford 0. Absolute massive win for Villa. And I feel like they could win their next couple of matches now, because when managers get sacked and new managers come in, the team tends to get a manager boost and then go on a bit of a good run. I still don't think Brentford will go down. I think Brentford are still gonna have a pretty decent season, bearing if they don't get injuries to key players like Reha and Tony. Next game, Wolves 0, Leicester 4. I thought this was a massive win for Leicester because, barring the last 2 games, Leicester have been a bit shocking recently, and now the pressure's off Rodgers a bit. But I think Leicester need a new keeper still, and I think they need a younger striker as well, because Vardy's good, but I don't think he's the player that he was when he was in his prime. Next game, Spurs 1, Newcastle 2. I thought Newcastle were absolutely fantastic, and I thought Spurs were shocking, and I think it was a fair result in the end, and I think Newcastle are one of the dark horses for this season that could maybe get into the top 4 or maybe get into the top 6. And I still think they need quite a few more players if they are to compete for the title, Newcastle. And I don't see them winning the league while Klopp's still at Liverpool and Pep's still at City. But they're doing well, Newcastle. And I still think they need a couple more squad players to back up to Pope and stuff, and maybe Botman and things, and Saint-Maximin. But I think their team's looking good at the moment. And the next game is West Ham 2, Bournemouth 0. Even though West Ham played pretty good, the 2 goals that they scored were pretty harsh on Bournemouth, because the first one should have been disallowed for a handball, and the penalty, I don't think it was a penalty, because if he didn't put his arm up, then he wouldn't have been able to block the cross. And if he didn't block the cross, then West Ham probably would have scored. So I don't think it's a penalty. So I think Bournemouth did well. It's just that they didn't create enough chances, although they did have lots of possession. And I'm still not ruling out David Moyes being sacked, because I've got a feeling that he might be one of the next managers to be sacked. That might sound mad how well he's done at West Ham in recent months and years, but I've got a feeling that's possible. Because I think West Ham, they need a manager that's more modern than David Moyes. Don't get me wrong, he's done a great job at West Ham, but I think he might have taken West Ham as far as he possibly can. Because I think West Ham want to get to that next level and win a trophy and things. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you have enjoyed.